Let's talk about Amy Goodman. Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! There's really some great news coming out from her case. If you weren't aware, Amy Goodman was on the scene of the North Dakota Access Pipeline protests by the Sioux tribes, and she actually was the one who brought national attention to what was going on back in September. On September 3rd, she was there reporting and getting coverage and exposing it to the world, and she got coverage of private contractors, essentially a private security / mercenaries using attack dogs on protesters. And I have some images here. If you look at them, you can see the image of the dog with blood dripping from its mouth. The dogs were sent to attack the protesters. It was a horrible scene, and Amy Goodman's reporting absolutely catapulted this to the national stage. That was September 3rd. September 8th, a warrant was issued for her arrest for criminal trespassing. After about a few weeks of this story being out in the public's eye, this prosecuting attorney dropped the charge from criminal trespassing because he did not have enough evidence to actually charge her with that, and instead went with a charge of inciting riots. So Amy Goodman had to go to North Dakota on yesterday, and thankfully the judge said that there was not enough evidence to actually charge her with it. The state's attorney involved, his name was Lad Erickson. He dropped the charge from criminal trespass to inciting riots, and then the judge himself actually said, no, there's not enough evidence. Here's the thing, and she actually said it best. Let me quote her. She said, quote, "By filing the charges in the first place, the state's attorney was attempting to stop journalism." And in many ways, Pat, this is an example of a retribution of the police and the private contractors, the companies actually being angry with her for this coverage, because she exposed something on the national level that was really only on social media, and they pressed charges against her. I mean, when's the last time you actually have heard of journalists being charged with trespassing when they're there to cover a story? I really don't hear that too often.
Yeah, it's just a way for them to quiet her in the future. That's how you know that you're doing good journalism, is when you're kind of breaking the boundaries and pushing the limits of what you can do. And it seems like they were just trying to get back at her and prevent her from doing it again.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. It was actually Ferguson was the last time I remember a journalist being charged with criminal trespass for covering a story. If you remember the Ferguson protests some years ago, there were several reporters who were arrested and charged for the same type of thing. And it speaks to the need for the system and the powers that be to keep certain situations quiet. Thankfully, Amy Goodman, the charges have been dropped. Yeah, I'm sure it was a major inconvenience for her life personally, but if anyone was up to the task of challenging this type of violation, the violation of the First Amendment, it was Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! So congratulations, Amy. We really love your work, and continue to keep doing that work. We'll be back after this break, and we'll be back a little bit more of the David Pakman Show with your special guest host, Benjamin Dixon.